Hi, and welcome to the Bruce Channel. I'm Bruce. In case you're in Hawaii or Sicily or maybe San Diego, you may not have heard, but it got cold in a lot of places, and it did it all of a sudden. At the end of last week, in a lot of places, it not only got cold, it got very, very snowy. I've got some friends who live in the snow belt of Cleveland, where the lake effect snow is most pronounced. And I guess it began on Saturday, but they got, by the time Sunday was done, they had like 3 feet of snow. And the interstate that goes up toward Pennsylvania, I-90, it had a 70-car pileup, and it closed both directions overnight. It was closed for hours, both directions. And then as we made our way through this week, it stayed cold. And not 3 feet, but they got more snow, kept on coming. And, that cold weather wasn't exclusive to Cleveland. Chicago, Detroit, Buffalo, they all had lows near zero. Speaking of Buffalo, the last NFL team with a perfect record, my Cleveland Browns, will be playing there on Sunday afternoon. All right, so then we get to about midweek, another interstate, I-80. This is the Pennsylvania Turnpike near Pittsburgh. It was shut down for a while. Did I mention it was cold? It was so cold. How cold was it? It was so cold. I've got a friend in Michigan who said she called 911 and they gave her a recording saying, "We appreciate your call. Thanks for calling. Call back in spring." How cold was it? It was so cold, my friend the optometrist was away skiing, but he told me that he'd heard rumors back at the office they were giving those people who were coming in to pick up their glasses miniature ice scrapers to go along with them. It was so cold. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police issued special orders for all Canadian citizens to use plastic utensils. That was because everyone was getting their tongues stuck to the metal ones, like the kid in A Christmas Story. It was so cold that in Minneapolis, dogs were getting stuck to fire hydrants. How cold was it? It was so cold. In New York City, the muggers were calling in sick. Okay. But it was cold here, too. Really cold by the week's end. How cold? It was so cold. I was out driving around, and at the entrances to the interstates, I saw hitchhikers holding up pictures of their thumbs. Yeah, I knew it must be pretty cold nationwide because I was watching football, and there was the beer commercial, and then there was the truck commercial, and then the Viagra commercial. Then I saw a commercial for a toupee, a hairpiece with battery-powered warmer. It was so cold that people with short tempers were becoming very popular. Everyone wanted to be near the hotheads. It was so cold that instead of opening their overcoats, the flashers were describing themselves. And it's still autumn. Winter doesn't arrive until Wednesday morning at 5:44 a.m. Eastern Time. Oh, and weather is not climate. Just saying. Okay, so a moment ago I mentioned football. The bowl season has begun. This weekend it started with 6 games. Count them, 6. Now, I'm not going to rain on anyone's parade, so the teams that played in these first games, and for the next several bowl games as well, they're justified for being excited to be there. They're players and they're fans, and they've earned their way to a bowl game, which isn't as hard as it used to be. One team from around here is in a bowl, and their record is 6-6. But that's okay. Not everyone can play for a national championship like the Buckeyes. Teams like those that played in the Raycon Media Camellia Bowl, that was played in Montgomery, Alabama. All right, so Appalachian State, which is from Boone, North Carolina, versus University of Toledo. I think that's great. I do think there's too many bowls, and with the sponsorship, they've just about become outright infomercials. Remember when there were like a dozen, and that's all. The Liberty Bowl was played in Memphis. It was one of the minor ones back then, but now it's the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, and that one is positively major league compared to, say, the Dollar General Bowl. Yeah, that one's going to be played this coming Friday night, Mobile, Alabama. When I can, I'm just going to continue to call them the Orange Bowl or the Rose Bowl. But, what do you do with the Quick Lane Bowl or the Dollar General Bowl? The thing is, and this is not always the case, but aside from the 4 playoff teams, there are some pretty good-looking games I'm looking forward to watching. The Rose Bowl is one of them. Almost made the playoffs, Penn State versus Southern Cal, the Trojans of USC. And the Orange Bowl in particular, because almost made the playoffs, Michigan will play Florida State. And those two playing each other, that's a rare matchup. Oh, speaking of college football, did you hear the bizarre story out of Wake Forest University? Wake Forest is a very nice private school, plays its athletics in the ACC, and in football, and particularly in basketball, they're usually outgunned by the much bigger North Carolina schools to the east, Duke and Durham, UNC and Chapel Hill, and North Carolina State and Raleigh. But this is too weird. Wake Forest lost a football game earlier this year to Louisville, and it was then discovered that Louisville had Wake Forest's game plan, including some specific plays. So how did they get it? Louisville, in fact, at first denied that they had it. But then it was found out who, and at Louisville, the offensive line coach, the offensive assistant coach who accepted the help has been suspended. But from Wake Forest, Tommy Elrod. Tommy Elrod played for Wake Forest from 93 to 97. Former head coach Jim Grobe hired him as a graduate assistant, and he was an assistant coach, one position coach or another, for 11 years. Now, new coach came in 2014, Dave Clawson. He did not keep Elrod as an assistant, but Elrod became the color man, the analyst for the radio station. And they let him in all the time. He was in the team meetings. He talked to coaches, players. What's the game plan? They would tell him because they assumed he was going to be, one of them. And he betrays his team. Bizarre. He was fired, and I doubt how can he ever work in football again, which is something he apparently really wanted to do. Now he has destroyed that future. He has said nothing, but what was he doing? Was he hoping to lose games and have Clawson lose his job, and then maybe he gets fired? I don't know. He hasn't said anything, but it doesn't matter what school, any school. It's hard to believe that any of your alums would do this, don't you think?
Hey, let me tell you about my book, Shrink. For most of my adult life, I weighed a little over 100 pounds, not much more than in this picture taken when I was about 17 and considering becoming a jockey. But as is often true, once I crossed into my 40s, extra weight came, and it stayed. For years, I tried to lose, instead gained, and ended up 153 pounds. And I'm embarrassed to show you this video. Then I learned that it isn't about calories and exercise, but instead it's about what you eat. You might say, sure, ice cream makes you fat. But there were surprises, things like orange juice not being such a wise choice if you're trying to lose weight. So I just made some basic changes to what I ate, not how much, and the weight just fell off. Now, nearly 3 years later, it is still off. And don't misunderstand, I'm eating foods I like, not bamboo shoots. Friends ask me how I did it so often, I put it in a book. It's available as an ebook for all platforms, and the print edition is available at barnesandnoble.com and amazon.com. Hey, you can shrink too.
All right, welcome back. Remember, you can write to us at thebrucechannel@yahoo.com. You can watch all of our previous shows at either our Facebook page or at tinyurl.com/BruceChannel. Okay, we're largely staying light today, but I am going to get this one distasteful thing out of the way. I'm going to do it quickly. I'm in North Carolina, so as you may have heard, our Republican governor took almost a month to concede he lost the election to Democrat Roy Cooper. Roy Cooper was the Attorney General for 12 years, and I thought that he served with distinction. It didn't matter which party had the governorship. Now, I think I've got this right. The state legislature, which in both the Senate and House is controlled by Republicans. They get called back for special session. And that was on Wednesday, that they passed some emergency aid for those who lost everything in October's Hurricane Matthew. Then they call a second special session for the following day. No one knows what for. So they pass a bill in one day that limits the number of appointments the governor can appoint to various boards and agencies. They want to neuter the incoming guy, Roy Cooper, the Democrat. That smells bad, but what makes it positively stink is they sort of tried to do this thing before, taking more power for the legislature and limiting the power of the governor. And that was when Pat McCrory was the governor, the Republican. He opposed it. He took it to court, and he was supported by two former governors, one a Republican, one a Democrat, and they went to the Supreme Court, and North Carolina Supreme Court turned that down by a vote of 6-1. So he's on the record as against this sort of thing, right? They passed this neutering bill on Thursday, and he signs it on Friday. I'm not calling him out as a Republican or a Democrat. I'm calling him out as a hypocritical piece of... All right, some quick hitters. Someone hung this meme, and when I saw it, I thought, yeah, I remember those. We don't see these anymore. And the reason became clear once you buy this beautiful thing. The wood is crafted, and sometimes there's real art there. And the wood will last for generations, but unfortunately, televisions do not. So, over time, we got to see many beautiful cabinets tossed out in front of the yard. And yes, there are those with the skill to turn it into something, but far fewer got repurposed than got tossed. Anyway, so I was reminded of those. I went online looking for some pictures, and here's a couple of them, there's a couple of them. And yeah, but then there was one. My point about, wow, there's art in there. I grant you, this one is a bit bizarre and maybe dated, but I've never seen this anywhere, not in pictures, movies, anywhere. Somebody thought this was the coolest thing. And you know what? They might be right. We lost some well-known actors in the last week or so. I didn't know him as an actor, but instead of as a late-night talk show host, Alan Thicke, and he hosted In the Thick of the Night. And I didn't watch it, so I wasn't aware of his acting, but I guess he played the dad on Growing Pains. We also lost familiar, hard to place, Bernard Fox. I first knew of him when he played the English valet, Malcolm Merriweather, touring America on a bicycle on the Andy Griffith Show.
I never seen such recklessness in my life. What's the matter with you anyways? Oh, I'm very sorry, I am really. I can't think what came over me. I behaved like a proper Charlie. And the Bobby here is quite right. I do deserve a good dressing down.
Good.
Notice anything about this bird?
Like what?
The way he talks.
What do you mean?
I don't think he's from around here. Fact is, I'd say he's from somewhere else.
And then later he became known for playing Dr. Bombay on the sitcom Bewitched, and Colonel Crittenden on the sitcom Hogan's Heroes. Then years later, maybe you recognize him, but I was delighted to see him in the blockbuster, biggest hit of all time at that time. And he only had a couple scenes, but he was in the Titanic, in the drawing room where he was in his white tie and tails. But he looked good, you know? But that's almost 20 years ago, and that's scary. The Titanic was just... Anyway, more recent images of him reveal, what we all know. If we don't die too young, like, say, Alan Thicke, then we can become old and frail. One of life's inequities. Okay, one more quickie. This year, in just its second year, through October, Colorado sales of legal pot reached over $1 billion. That's with a B. From the beginning of the year through October, obviously, statistically, there's still 2 more months to add to that. But Jiminy Christmas, the guy was a soothsayer, wasn't he? All right, certainly no secret we're in the holiday season, but, it began in September. So now we are in the home stretch. As mentioned, it really begins Wednesday, 5:44 a.m. Eastern Time. That's the point when the sun stops descending. In the Northern Hemisphere, that is the winter solstice. And, that winter solstice is really what spawned a good deal of what we do today. So for those so inclined, happy solstice. Then beginning Saturday evening and continuing for 8 days until January 1st, Hanukkah begins. And since today's show is the last one before Hanukkah begins, I say to my Jewish friends, Happy Hanukkah. And then in a week, Sunday, it will be Christmas. So I thought I'd show you this. I did this a few years ago, and I do not recall if I put this up on the Bruce channel or not. I don't remember. So if I didn't, here it is. And if I did, well, you've heard Andy Williams sing Most Wonderful Time of the Year more than once, right?
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Hey, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. Over the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, making spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleigh song tonight. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Soon Miss Fanny Bright was seated by my side. The horse was lean and lank, misfortune seemed his lot. We ran into a drifted bank and there we got upset. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. You guys gonna sing? Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh.
And I hope you liked it. But my absolute favorite video for the last 7 years, more than 7 years has been around now. You may have seen it, but even so, it's still wonderful, and it comes to us from Pierre Lemieux. It's his YouTube channel, and here we go. Isn't that terrific? I just love that. You can Google it, you can watch it. Anyway. That's going to do it for this week. For me, slap my gym pals. And if you're traveling, please be careful. Take just a little extra time to pay attention. Most of us can drive perfectly well by routine reflex. But this time of year, there's plenty of distractions. Sometimes those distractions come in different colors. Sometimes they're fizzy or bubbly. Be careful. And I do hope your upcoming week is the best one you've ever had.